our employment, open unemployment is low, but maybe around 6 to 7%. But we have a very huge problem with the so-called vulnerable employment. A very big number of Indonesians survive in the so-called informal sector. And I think one of the main challenges for the next government is how to move out people from the low productivity informal sector to higher productivity sector. And in my view, in the higher productivity sector, manufacturing is a must. Inequality has worsened in Indonesia in the course of the last 20 years. Our Gini coefficient is rising. Number of people in poverty defined for the $2 a day is still huge, and some other issues of inequality. But these problems are not new. They have been there, and I think all in all we are on the right track. Some people, this is a very welcome development, the increase in the number of people in the so-called middle income group of Indonesians. And I think we are talking here about a number of over 50 million, which is, in my view, a big market and a must for a number of industries, particularly consumer goods industries and services. So for consumer goods companies, I think Indonesia is a must, and most of them are already here. For retailers also, they are all here already. Yeah? And I think that's for real. You can see that from the increases in the number of motorcycles in Jakarta. You are scared to see what is taking place on the roads of Jakarta in terms of this motorcycle. But also more than that, in the number of washing machines sold every day, the number of cars, small cars, etc., etc. But also tourism. Yeah, tourism is also a very active industry in Indonesia. But I'm a conservative economist. I'm an orthodox economist. I wish that Indonesia still care much more calling itself a saving society rather than a consuming society. Because we are yet through the so-called middle income trap. And apparently this is the most difficult stage in economic development. Many countries failed this test in the past as well as in recent times. And to really go through this trap successfully, overcoming it, we need, number one, higher human capital, better educated workforce, but of course also better equipment. And all this requires saving. If we are to send our children by the 100,000s overseas for studying, as they do in India and China, then we need a huge amount of saving. The same applies to modernization of equipments in manufacturing, in services, in education, and other areas. If we are to equip these industries with best practice, we need a great deal of increases in capital, meaning saving. But of course, to some extent, we can compensate this through inflows of foreign direct investment. And this is one of the areas where Indonesia is enjoying a kind of acceleration in the last few years. Japanese have rediscovered Indonesia as location for investment. For them, Indonesia is now number one location in Asia. Korea is coming in also in big number and commitment. China is trying to find ways of coming in a bigger way to Indonesia. So with the inflows of capital from FDI as well as from portfolio investment, consumption domestic is also fueled even more. We are being Asianized, quotation mark, in the sense that our trade is going to Asia much more and coming from Asia much more. China is now our number one trading partner. In the past, it was either US or Japan. And this Asianization, in a way, is a normal process in East Asia, because the rest of East Asia also is having a very high level of intra-Asia trade. So we are seeing, for instance, our trade growing progressively, one with ASEAN, which is very encouraging, two, of course, with China. Japan will be picking up again after the inflows of FDI to Indonesia. But there is also an important point to be made here. Asian trade should never be seen isolated from our trade with the other side of the Pacific, North America in particular, and with Europe. And I think we should find ways of revitalizing this triangular trade simultaneously. Whatever happens in terms of expansion in intra-Asia trade, we do need the links to North America, we do need the links to Europe. I am a man of diversity. I truly believe in diversity, not only in human life, but also in economic life. Yeah? Diversity is a necessary ingredient of innovation. And innovation is a necessary ingredient of human progress. So on this, I think Indonesia, is undergoing a kind of normalization in its direction of trade. Point number two, Indonesia was a winner in global trade in the second half of 1980s and early 1990s. But we kind of lost momentum in the mid-1990s. And that was the time when China really skyrocketed. And number two, that was the time when the renminbi of China was devalued by 40%, while our rupiah was, in a way, getting stronger at that time. So we lost the momentum. And of course, the financial crisis came in 97, 98. And after that, our manufacturing is yet to recover the momentum. And in the most recent years, we have observed a kind of retreat among Indonesian policymakers from open trade, which in my view is a pity. We were a winner of open trade, and we will be one again, provided we do our homeworks. Because part of the reasons behind this lost momentum is the high cost within the Indonesian economy. High logistic cost, high administrative cost, high labor cost, etc., etc. But there is this recent worrying development of backing off somewhat from open trade, You can see this in the new trade law. You can see this also in the mineral law. You can see this in the new industry law. And you can see this from a number of regulations as well. But my hope is this: Indonesia has never been a truly ideological country when it comes to policy making, economic policy making. We have always been pragmatic all along. When the need arises, Indonesian government is always ready and willing to change its policy, and I hope this symptom of backing off will not deteriorate to the next period of government. We